qualitative research is used to explore the research problem. So in this section, or in this module of this class, we will look at this type of research in more detail. Qualitative research is actually a catch-all term that includes a wide range of methods and techniques. Some of the most common techniques are listed here, and we'll briefly discuss each of these in turn. Expert surveys can be very helpful and can provide a cost-effective way of getting a lot of expert insight quickly. Here, the idea is that you would identify people who have some expert knowledge of the market or of consumers. Who would normally be considered an expert on the market? Of course, you can think of the usual suspects such as industry analysts and academics and so on, but you should not forget the people who are actually in contact with the market and with consumers on a regular basis. I'm talking, of course, about retailers and salespeople, both of which will ordinarily have a lot of good information that they can share with you. And of course, experienced managers within the company can also be good sources of information. In fact, expert surveys often begin with the company's managers and sales force because they are easily accessible and more than willing to share their thoughts. One of the simplest and most popular methods in qualitative research is the depth interview, also known as the one-on-one. It usually takes an hour or more to conduct. The interviewer follows an interview protocol, which means procedure, asking about issues such as the respondent's motivations, the thoughts, experiences, etc. The questions are usually open-ended, meaning that we allow respondents to express their responses in their own words, and don't ask them to pick from a set of pre-specified answers, as in a survey. The interviewer plays a crucial role here because he or she has to encourage the respondent to talk freely and has also to provide for more details whenever appropriate. So probing is an important part of a depth interview. Often the responses can lead into unexpected areas, and the interviewer has to be open to going there. Some researchers prefer a depth interview to a focus group because it avoids the risk of the respondent being influenced by other people's responses. The downside is that it is time-consuming and expensive. A single depth interview can take as long as a focus group and generate just as much data for analysis. So you need to be careful when using depth interviews, as it can take up a lot of time and exhaust the budget. Now, qualitative research can include observation, which is one of the simplest ways to collect data. You just need an observer and you need a place to carry out the observation. For example, you could learn a lot by observing people's behavior in a store as they consider different products and make a choice. You could observe how many alternatives they consider, what information they look at, and of course what they eventually buy. Here are some of the advantages of observation techniques. First of all, observation yields objective and accurate data on behavior. It tells you what actually happened, unlike surveys, which may not actually do that. However, observation does not tell you why people behave the way they do. It doesn't reveal the motivation for the behavior. Third, it may be unethical in some situations. Sometimes people have an expectation of privacy, and it would be unethical to observe them in those situations. Of course, if someone's shopping in a store, they have no expectation of privacy. But you have to be sensitive to these situations. One other issue with observation is that it's pretty expensive as a method of doing research because you need trained observers. You can't have observers who lack training just standing there because they won't know what to observe and how to record it. So it can be expensive to get the right people to do this. The other issue is that it's time consuming. You have to wait for events to occur. You can't actually go out and ask people to do something. You simply have to wait and observe what happens. Observation can be done by mechanical means as well. In fact, these methods are in common use today and illustrate the range of data that you can gather. One of the most common ways in which mechanical observation takes place is through UPC scanners in stores. This is a device that has transformed not only retailing, but the entire practice of marketing. UPC scanners came into use in the early 1980s and allowed retailers for the first time to gather accurate information about what exactly was purchased at any given moment, any day of the week, any month of the year. and they could record both the item that was purchased, the price that was paid for it, and if it was associated with any coupon or other promotion that the consumer used. This is, of course, useful for retailers to keep track of sales, but it's also critical for manufacturers because for the first time it allowed them to calculate accurately what their total sales were in a set of stores. And they could keep track of sales and market share and see how both changed as they changed their marketing mix. What are some of the other mechanical methods that are used in observation? Well, there's a common one that is used to measure TV viewing and radio listening, and these are called people meters. Basically, these are set-top devices that are attached to the TV of the person who has this device, and every time someone changes a channel, that change is recorded. In fact, people meters tend to scan the TV set every few seconds so that they can tell if the channel has changed in that interval. And similarly with radio listening, you can track which channel or which radio station people are listening to through these devices. And then you can aggregate that to measure the total viewership or the listenership of a particular TV channel or a radio station. Another technique that's come into common use as part of qualitative research is concept testing. Concept testing is very widely used in testing consumer reaction to new product development. It is typically used in the early stages of product development. Basically, you present a description of the product and a picture of it, as shown in this example of a concept board, to a sample of consumers. Then you ask a series of questions about their perceptions of the product and their interest in trying it. This is used to help narrow down the set of product concepts to those that have the greatest interest among consumers. And obviously, this is a critical part of the new product testing process. There are good reasons why focus groups are so widespread in use. They can be set up pretty quickly. They're quite cheap compared to a survey, although not on a per respondent basis. They allow you to connect with your target audience in a meaningful way by allowing you to hear firsthand what they think. And they are versatile, meaning you can do a lot of different things in a focus group apart from just talking. There is a standard or traditional type of focus group, and over the years some variations on the standard group have emerged. In a standard group, a group of 8 to 12 people sit around a table and respond to a set of questions posed by a moderator. The moderator follows a discussion guide that he or she has prepared beforehand to direct the discussion. The discussion typically lasts from 60 to 90 minutes. A video feed of the discussion is watched by people from the client's company. In the old days, they would sit behind a one-way mirror, and the video is recorded. Mini groups are very similar except for a smaller size group, typically 4 to 6 people. A two-way group consists of 2 focus groups running in parallel. The discussion in the first group is watched by participants in the second group. The second group can then comment on and discuss what they're hearing from the first group. This model can be useful in some situations. For example, in a discussion about a pharmaceutical drug, the first group might be a group of patients discussing their symptoms and treatment, and the second group might be a group of physicians who can comment on what the patients are saying. In an online group, the participants are not physically in the same location, but they meet in an online forum to discuss the topic. As mentioned earlier, one of the nice things about a focus group is its versatility. You can combine it with other tasks or assignments to get richer data. For example, you can ask people to make a collage to represent what images they associate with the brand. Or you could do a taste test or show people ads. The possibilities are endless. One issue to consider is the composition of the group. Should it be relatively homogeneous or should it be as diverse as possible? In most cases, a homogeneous group is preferred because it increases the comfort level of the participants if they see other people like them in the group. They become more willing to express their opinion freely. So if you have different segments in the target audience that you want to study, you are better off running a separate focus group for each of them. A diverse or heterogeneous group is preferred only in the case where you are brainstorming for ideas, and having more people with different mindsets and experiences will improve the quality of the discussion. Projective techniques refer to a set of research methods and techniques that allow consumers to project their feelings onto a stimulus. The idea is that people often are unwilling or unable to reveal their true thoughts, feelings, and motivations, and these techniques are a way to get at those hidden motives and feelings. Perhaps the most famous, or should I say infamous, type of projective technique is the Rorschach ink blot test. People are shown a set of ink blots and asked to describe what they are seeing. What you see here is an actual ink blot that is used. In theory, people project their personalities on the ink blots and reveal things that they would not or could not articulate through direct questioning. For example, these ink blots are used by some psychologists to assess prison inmates and recommend whether or not they should be paroled. While some psychologists defend the use of these techniques, others dismiss them as having no diagnostic value. As these examples illustrate, projective techniques are methods of indirect questioning, unlike surveys in which you question people directly. In projective techniques, the stimulus is deliberately kept ambiguous so that people will not find it easy to interpret it and end up projecting their feelings onto it. In contrast, in a questionnaire, the stimulus, which is a question being asked, is as unambiguous and precise as possible so that the answer can be unambiguously interpreted. Another aspect of projective techniques is that the interpretation of the responses goes beyond the face value. In other words, you have to look at the subtext of what is not actually said but implied by the response. In contrast, again, with questionnaires, you only look at the specific response, which is usually very unambiguous, and do not try and read into it for additional meaning. As you can see in projective techniques, although you ask the subject questions, the techniques are completely different from what you would do in a survey. Because of that, they can generate additional insights that surveys cannot. For that reason, they are still being used today in applications such as assessing brand image and testing brand names to find out what feelings and values are associated with them, getting ideas for developing advertising themes based on what you learn about what consumers want and desire, and developing personality profiles of the target audience that can be used in creative strategy. Here are some more examples of projective techniques. Third-person questioning allows people to project their feelings onto another party. This way they can express their feelings without taking responsibility for them. Word association. Not only does the word that the respondent gives reveal the value associated with the target word, but the speed with which the response comes can also have significance. When something comes to mind more easily, it is considered more important. Some psychoanalysts would also say that significant pauses or odd associations are worthy of investigation. Associating products or brands with a type of person, a car, or an animal can reveal a lot about the brand image in a way that the respondent may not be able to articulate if asked directly. Sentence completion is a common way to elicit people's feelings about a product or an issue without putting words in their mouth.